Tesla stock at $744 with an over $700 billion market cap. Is it worth buying in 2021? Is there potential for a 10x in 10 years? I think there is, and I'm gonna get into it in a real quick. Let me make sure that I'm recording. I think there is. Tesla. Okay, I am recording, yo. My fault. So, I have a few videos here. And, this is on my other channel. And I make sure that if you want to check this out, follow my Twitter, because I'm going to post it there. I'm going to post a link there, and you're going to be able to check all these videos out. I do have to do better at coming in with different perspectives, because these are all Tesla bullish videos, and I'd like to look at all perspectives. So if you have any videos, let me know. The first thing we're going to look at is what happened a few days ago about the Tesla crash. Let's look at it. No ads. Ad bad. Alright, we're gonna skip that real quick. Bro, I'm not even, it's freaking muted. My fault, y'all.
Hey, I'm Steven and this is Solving the Money Problem. If you're new, welcome. If you're not, welcome back. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize in advance for today's video. Kind of wish I didn't need to make it, but once again, we've seen an example of some of the morons, yes, I use the word moron, some of the morons in the mainstream finance media have once again misreported some critical details relating to Tesla, of course, spreading some FUD, doing irreparable damage to the brand, to the company, and hurting the stock price. In today's video, I'm going to do some fact checking, point out some of the hypocrisy and some of the tactics of the mainstream finance media, and I'm also going to eviscerate one particular host on Yahoo Finance who is actually one of the dumbest people I've ever seen on network television. Yes, by the way, not personal, but I'm just calling a spade a spade. I mean, it's like if you have some like a legitimate dunce on your panel repeatedly and they just out themselves as an absolute moron who has no idea what they're talking about, I'm going to call it out. So with that said, let's get into the video. And by the way, since I know there's a
Bye. Alright.
unless with stake also using on CNBS said today, the following day after this FUD initially began to spread, maybe they can correct some errors, maybe they can provide some clarification. Let's see what they had to say.
Becky, we may have some more developments in the next day or two, whether or not we get any type of resolution or greater clarity. I'm skeptical that we'll see that anytime soon. And the reason this is getting a lot of attention, Becky, is because police at the scene said there was nobody behind the driver, the steering wheel, nobody in the driver's seat, which raises the question, who was driving this vehicle at the time of the crash? Yesterday, after much speculation in the media that perhaps the autopilot was engaged and may have malfunctioned, Elon Musk tweeted out the following, saying, data logs recovered so far show autopilot was not enabled and this car did not purchase FSD. That's full self-driving, which means it would not have had the latest beta autopilot software. Moreover, standard autopilot would require lane lines to turn on, which this street did not have. Nonetheless, investigators still have a number of questions regarding this crash. They want to see those data logs. In fact, they plan to serve a search warrant to Tesla today in order to receive those data logs so they can get perhaps a little better understanding of what happened before this accident where the Model S veered off the road, hit a tree, and then burst into flames as the battery pack was punctured. By the way, that was a fiery crash that it took the fire teams a long time to put out this fire, which is not a surprising situation given the fact that lithium-ion battery packs can burn so hot.
This is simply untrue. Now, I'm sure Phil himself isn't the one who's done the homework here and the research. Whoever's fed him this so-called information is to blame. But irrespective of that, this is completely not true. It's damaging, and people on CNBS and other networks should really be doing their homework before they share things as if they're facts or information when in fact they're rumors, or in this case, complete and utter horseshit. Let's see what actually happened. So we're over here on Teslarati now. The title of today's article, Texas Fire Chief Slams Inaccurate Tesla Crash Coverage with First-Hand Details on the Model S Fire. Let's scroll down. Let's see, what did he have to say? With respect to the firefight, unfortunately those rumours, aka the fire went on for hours, grew way out of control. It did not take us 4 hours to put out the blaze. Our guys got there and put down the fire within 2 to 3 minutes, enough to see the vehicle occupants. After that, it was simply cooling the car as the batteries continued to have a chain reaction due to damage, okay? One more time. The fire did not take 4 hours to put out as the media reporting yesterday, and as Phil has reiterated today. No, it took 2 to 3 minutes to put out. This is just part of the FUD.
So you've got the NTSB and NHTSA both investigating this accident. Keep in mind that NHTSA has done more than 24 probes of crashes involving Tesla vehicles. Have you seen anything dramatically change in terms of what Tesla does with its autopilot, Becky? You haven't. And that's because a number of times these investigations, they are concluded with no determination. Sometimes they're concluded and they say, you know what? It wasn't the software. It wasn't autopilot's fault. It was the fault of the driver. They were incorrectly operating the vehicle. So it may be a while before we get any type of determination about what happened with this crash.
So while the ad is playing, I'm gonna real quick say, the reason I'm playing this is because, hey, Tesla is suffering at all sides are being attacked by the news. We have plenty of automotive companies who don't like Tesla, who are scared of it. You know, they know they're going out of business within 10 years. We have plenty of news coverage that, when given the chance, they'll take the chance to spew negative things about Tesla because it gets views. All right, and keep in mind, in 2018, when all of this was happening and there were little institutions spending hundreds of millions of dollars to short Tesla and paying news outlets to spit trash at Tesla, Tesla was surviving. Elon Musk was getting things done. Alright? But this is 2021, and let's continue.
Yeah, probably hard to argue that the driver wasn't at fault if there was no one in the driver's seat.
Yeah, what was going on here? I mean, were they trying something, some kind of a stunt? And that's not a strange thing to say, because if you go online, you can see tons of people doing stuff behind the wheel with the vehicle, with a Tesla on autopilot, that they shouldn't be doing. They, you know, whether it's sleeping, whether it's somebody climbing in the back seat, all of that stuff feeds into the perception that autopilot is dangerous, when in fact it's the driver who is conducting acting the way they shouldn't be.
Some reasonable points here from Becky and Phil. Becky suggesting that how could the driver not be at fault if they were in the driver's seat and then left and then the vehicle crashed. Totally fair point, but I just want to take a step back behind this. And I'm also not going to be particularly gentle when I say this. If you find a vehicle, it's been an accident, and there's two people in the passenger seats, and you know, I hate to be so graphic, and I really hate to make this example, but I do need to clarify this stuff. You know, you get to a scene and there's two people that have been burned in an accident in the back of a vehicle, and you determine that there's no way somebody could have been in the front of the vehicle because now they're in the back of the vehicle. You're a fucking moron. Now, again, you're an actual fucking moron. Why are you a fucking moron? Watch what happens in a vehicle when there's an accident and somebody isn't wearing a seatbelt correctly or isn't wearing one at all. Where does their body end up? Spoiler alert, it's not in the seat they started in, you idiots. Now, there's also could be some other explanations. Maybe a driver fled. The point is, if you arrive at the scene of an accident and there isn't a body in the front of the car, that doesn't mean there wasn't a body in the front of the car when it crashed. That's all I'm saying. That's literally all I'm saying. But of course, the media ran with this. Oh, there was no body in the front seat. Automatically, the car must have been on autopilot, despite the fact that it literally won't function without somebody sitting in the driver's seat and rah, rah, rah. Let's ignore all of that. Yeah, it was totally on autopilot. This is the thing that really irks me, okay? The fact that the media have run with this without doing any fact-checking to check, hang on, is the car even able to operate in autopilot without somebody in the front seat? Can it operate on the street that it was found on? Blah, 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 blah. Just does my head in. And now, let's wind the clock back to yesterday to see some of the initial reporting on this accident from some of the folks over at the aptly named Yahoo Finance.
One mover today to the downside is Tesla. Now that stock under a bit of pressure following news out over the weekend that there was a deadly crash involving two people who put the car into what is believed to be the autopilot mode. We want to bring in Rick Newman for a little bit more on this. And Rick, what can you tell us about this, and also just what this means for the future here with Tesla when it comes to its autopilot features?
Well, a car went flying off a road near Houston, hit a tree, exploded, and burned for hours.
Now, I hope none of Rick Newman's friends and family are watching, maybe even Rick himself. If you are, I highly recommend you guys just stop the video now. Okay, you good? All right, here it comes. Rick Newman is legitimately one of the dumbest people I've ever seen in the mainstream finance media. And I'm not saying that from a place of malice or hate. I mean, I don't have a personal issue with the guy. I've just been watching enough of this media coverage now, particularly on Tesla, to see that Rick Newman has no fucking idea what he's talking about 90% of the time. I've seen him say some incredibly stupid things. It's hilarious. Some of the interactions with him, especially, man, Gally versus Rick, oh my god, absolute all-time classic. The point is, my experience, my perception, my opinion is that
We might have to check that out. Galley Hyperchange on YouTube.
Rick Newman is one of the least competent people in the mainstream finance media when it comes to covering Tesla. I don't know if there's an agenda there. I don't know if he's got a big oil portfolio, his big long GM and Ford. I got no idea what's going on there. All I can see from my point of view is somebody that's just not competent to be discussing this.
Alright, so real quick, y'all. Oh, never mind. The ad's over.
Over and over and over, Rick outs himself as completely clueless, bordering on incompetent, perhaps dangerously so. This is another of those cases. You've just heard Rick Newman there suggest that this Tesla flew off the road, crashed, and then burned for hours. Yet we've had counter evidence. Wait, the fire was 2 to 3 minutes before it was put out versus hours. Now, I don't know about you guys. Please let me know in the comments below. Do you think that a person in the mainstream finance media...
Alright, we get the point. Let's look at more.
The victims, there was a body in the passenger seat, and there was a body in the back seat, and there was nobody in the driver's seat. And it's not likely anybody moved around after the crash. So this suggests not only that the vehicle was traveling by autopilot, Tesla's self-driving technology, but possibly that the owner of the car was showing...
Alright, they're talking about the same thing over and over again. So I'm just going to look up Hyperchange versus Rick. What's his name? Rick something? Nah, that's not it. Alright, well, let's just look at a few of the Rick from The Walking Dead. There's a recent video by Dave Lee on investing, and he's a pretty good channel. Let's look at it.
Hi, it's Dave. In this video,
can China shut down Tesla? Let's see.
I'm going to be addressing 3 major concerns that Tesla shareholders have this week. As with all of my videos, they are a stream of consciousness, and my opinions will change day by day, week by week as I get more information. Also, with stock investing, it's up to each person to make up their own mind, to gather their own information, and to evaluate kind of the risks and rewards that they see themselves. All right, that said, let's go ahead and first take a look at what Tesla stock is doing today. So Tesla stock is up about 20 points at the time of this recording, right before market close, at about $738. The NASDAQ is up almost 1% as well, so it's been an up day. But in the beginning of the day, Tesla got hit pretty hard. It opened pretty low, 705, and it dropped to under about $700 in the opening minutes. And ever since then, we've been seeing a recovery. So what I want to do in this video is I want to address some of the major concerns that a lot of Tesla shareholders have just right now, like this week in the moment, to kind of give a real-time discussion of what's going on. I received a Twitter direct message last night, and I wanted to share it with you guys and address some of the concerns. So he says, Dave, I'm a long-time watcher and listener of your YouTube episodes. Would you be able to comment on 2 concerns I have as a long Tesla investor? Number 1, what are your thoughts about Al Prescott leaving Tesla for Luminar? Isn't this a slap in the face for Elon's vision-only FSD versus LiDAR? All right, so for those who don't know, Tesla's vice president of legal operations. So let's go ahead actually take a look at a CNBC article that was published this morning. It says Tesla vice president of legal Al Prescott leaves to join Luminar, a LiDAR company. And here's how CNBC slants this article. It says Tesla's long-standing vice president of legal and acting general counsel, Al Prescott, has left the electric vehicle and renewable energy company to join Luminar, a LiDAR startup. Tesla CEO Elon Musk has long insisted that LiDAR technology or light ranging and detection sensors is too expensive and not necessary for development of autonomous vehicles. Prescott's move to Luminar, where he will serve as chief legal officer, is an endorsement of the technology, however. Okay, so let's kind of deconstruct this a bit. And let's go back to the question is, A, isn't this a slap in the face for Elon's kind of vision-only FSD approach? So first off, we have to understand that there are over 50,000 employees at Tesla, and you have a ton of the management that is going in and out of the company. Now, if you're in charge of Tesla Legal, and there have been many people in charge of Tesla Legal over the past several years who've been going in and out, and it could be a very stressful job. Not only that, Tesla is one of the most high-profile companies out there. They're a huge mega cap company in the spotlight, one of the top stocks. And if you're head of legal, vice president of legal, you're going to be highly recruited. And these guys are getting job offers. They're getting recruitment offers. They're getting LinkedIn messages, all the times. And hey, why don't you come join our company, our startup? We'll give you equity. And that's what it comes down to, I think. In the bigger picture, in the bigger point of things, a lot of these management will go to the places that are offering them the most. Right? And they'll offer them great salary. They'll offer them a great option package, right, with equity. And they think that the upside in this other company will be higher. I think that's pretty much the gist of the story. Tesla has a ton of capable management. And in such a large company, you're going to see high turnover of different people in terms of different roles. So when I look at this, you see, yeah, one person has left the company. It's not a total critical role. There are many people that can fill this role. And this is just life in the Valley, life in corporate America, life at one of the hottest companies, mega stock companies in the world.
Are people really worried about that? That's an interesting question. Let's skip ahead a few to the next question.
What are your thoughts on the heavy dependence Tesla has in China? China is very unstable, and the government could shut down Tesla in a heartbeat if it wanted to. US-China relations are worsening, and this could impact Tesla negatively.
So before he says anything, I just want to say, I don't think China would ever have an incentive to ban Tesla. Like, think about the amount of economic incentive there is, like how much money, and how much, not only that, but how much of a benefit you would have for a company like Tesla to be in China. He's probably going to go into the details more so.
Maybe this is why Tesla is looking into India. They may not want to sell cars there, but they may want to produce cars there. Okay, so what's the gist of this concern? So a bigger backdrop, yes, US-China relations are tense, and we don't know what it's going to be looking like in 5 or 10 years. It's a major global concern. However, there's actually, stuff happening this week that actually triggered a lot of these fears from different investors looking into Tesla. So here we have on CNBC, it says protesters upstage Tesla at China's top auto show. So there's a Shanghai auto show, and you have basically some protesters that had come, and one person actually jumped on a Tesla car, protested with a t-shirt saying her brakes were faulty. And she had to be taken out, put in prison, I guess, for 5 days for this incident. And Grace Tao Lin, who's Tesla's vice president of external affairs in China, commented on this story, and she said, she thinks that the protester might have been hired to carry out the stunt. Her actions have been very professional. There may be people behind her. And then she says this customer does not accept vehicle inspections and insists on high compensation. Tao added, right? Tesla's VP in China. I think there's no way for us to compromise. So the gist of this is you've got perhaps an angry customer, but who knows what the motives are. They're making a big show. It gets in the headlines. It gets in the media. And for Tesla, they're thinking, hey, we can't even inspect this person's vehicle. She's not even letting us, get to the vehicle. How can we arrange something? And she's demanding these outrageous, fees. And to Tesla, it could feel like they're being blackmailed, right? And this is what's going on just as a microcosm of an event that happened in China. Now, I think some people, and there are different concerns and risks of doing business in China. However, overall, I'm optimistic regarding Tesla's prospects in China for a few reasons. First, In China, there's a lot of stuff going on where there's tension between the central government, the federal government, and local governments. And local governments can have their own type of bureaucracies and their own agendas that oftentimes aren't aligned with central government. But overall, the central government has more power and they ultimately win. Now, in the case of Tesla, you had a direct invitation from the central government for Tesla to come into the country. They even bended the rules where Tesla didn't have to do a joint venture inside the company like every other auto company to date has had to. So Tesla was able to own their own factory, their own IP. And then you had Shanghai, a local government as well, just go open arms, just push through, right? Light speed construction, all the permits, etc. So you have the basics. However, the other side of the story is that other local entities and local governments inside China have sided with different EV companies in different ways. So you have NIO and XPeng and Li Auto, you have BYD and so many companies that are fending for this huge EV market. And a lot of these local city and governments are aligned with certain companies. And so this poses kind of a messy picture. And then you have financial interests, right? You have a lot of people betting on various stocks, right? Going long or short with options, etc., funds, a lot of stuff going on. And they're using the media to distort and manipulate, try to influence, various things for their own gain. Overall, the way I look at it is that China's main government, their central government, is in strong support of Tesla. And it's always been, and it's continued to show their support of Tesla, going forward. And I think it makes sense in a lot of ways because China has aspirations to become, this dominant world economy, and it's very controversial in a lot of ways, right? They have not so great, to say the least, record on human rights, and their whole form of government, in a way, can be seen as a threat to democracy. So I'm not going to condone China's overall policies in any way. However, economically, if you just look at an economic sphere for what China is doing, they're approaching it like long term and with intent, and they're wanting to put into place certain things in their economy to really grow into their world power. They've been very successful in doing that. The thing that they don't want to do is they don't want to mess that up, and they know that there's a few things that are needed. First, they need to attract foreign investment, but another thing is they need foreign markets to market and to sell their own products, right? Their own domestic products into. And because of that, if you invite Tesla, kind of this, very outspoken kind of public company into your company, and you just kind of completely turn over the whole game, right? And the rules, and you do them wrong. Let's say you do Tesla wrong, and Tesla either has to leave the country, etc. This hurts China in so many ways. It hurts every other country coming into China will doubt, right, any foreign investment. But second of all, a lot of other countries will carry animosity and start to close their borders, perhaps to Tesla or to China's anti-competitive practices. So China is very aware of this stuff. And this is why, in my opinion, it's in China's best interest to support support Tesla going forward. And I haven't really seen much evidence of the federal government, the main central government, having any doubt. If you look at any of the state media reports that have come out regarding Tesla, they've all been positive. I did an episode about a month ago with Kevin Yang, who follows Tesla's activities in China and all the drama there. And he really lays down a great framework of how to evaluate. I'll go ahead and link it in the video description below.
I absolutely agree that it is in China's best interest for Tesla to be in their country. And I don't have the exact details like he does. He has been doing research for decades, and he still continues to do research. So I just wanted to say that.
All right. So I want to go ahead and talk about one more concern here that people are having regarding Tesla this week. And that is this concern of crashes and autopilot and how safe it is. Let's go ahead and let's take a look at this tweet from Tesla New York. And it has a video clip of Sandy Munro here. And I want to go ahead and share this video clip.
We're
moving
Sandy
Munro gives some
for
interesting
environment.
points
Anytime
here.
you can have 8 times better for anything, that's the right way to go. Now, is it perfect? No, it's not perfect. And that's why it's not self-driving vehicles. But it's a lot better than the average than the average that we've got right now, which is, like I say, every 500,000 miles, somebody's going to get into a crash.
It sounds to me like you would not be a fan of putting this self-driving technology on pause until it's perfected.
I would be furious if we don't start doing something for the reduction of car accidents, and we are staring at something that's already 8 times better, and it's only been in the marketplace for a few years. I mean, that's criminal. Whoever decides to throw that out, they definitely don't have the general public at heart. That's a fact.
All right, so there you have a clip by TMZ and interviewing Sandy Munro, and Elon Musk says Sandy Munro knows what he's talking about. And then you have Emmett Pepper says, yes, this would be tragic if media sensationalism causes panic for regulators to delay development or adoption. That would equal hundreds or thousands of more unnecessary auto deaths versus if not delayed. So here's what's going on here. Is that there's been a lot of media sensationalism regarding, some recent Tesla accidents, mostly due to, human error, human foolishness. And it poses a question, right? And the question is, in my opinion, it's not so much how safe the technology is, because this technology, in the early stages, it needs human supervision. There is, a lot of room for error, and this is common knowledge. But as it gets better, that need for supervision will decrease over time. The bigger issue, though, is how the media, or some media outlets and journalists, take some stories and sensationalize them to the point where it could influence and impact the actions of regulators to deter and be an obstacle to this type of technology. So
I absolutely agree, and I'm gonna leave it at that. We looked at some of the you can definitely check out this video. It's called "Can China Shut Down Tesla?" by Dave Lee on Investing. But I 100% agree about these concerns are all short term. None of this hurts Tesla. None of it is something that Tesla can't jump over. Okay, so now let's look at the potential of how could Tesla possibly 10x from a $700 billion market cap? Maybe not 10x, that would be 7 trillion. Well, there's a first video right here. Okay, by the way, 7 trillion is if everything goes right. Okay, this isn't a estimate.
Solving the money problem. If you're new, welcome. Stock will 10x from here. So let's get into the video. But first, hey guys. This today, Tesla stock is in the mid $600 range, equating to a roughly $600 billion market capitalization. Kind of insane. Even more insane is the fact that I genuinely believe that over the next decade or so, give or take a few years, Tesla's market capitalization, therefore Tesla's stock price, is going to 10x. And in this video, I'm going to explain 10 reasons why I believe this is not only likely, but inevitable. Number 1, manufacturing. Now, it's no secret that Tesla has been learning the ropes when it comes to automotive manufacturing. A few years ago, they were ordinary at best. But in the span of just a few years, we've seen Tesla take a quantum leap forward and overtake the entire industry. This sounds like an exaggeration. This sounds like a deluded Tesla fanboy, but I'm not deluded. I'm not high. Well, actually, I might be high, but that's got nothing to do with this opinion I'm currently sharing. Tesla has gone from industry worst to industry best in just a few years, and this matters. Tesla's pace of innovation in terms of manufacturing is truly outstanding. Have you heard of the octovalve heat pump solution? Yeah, you know, the thing that any other company who's manufacturing vehicles could have invented anytime over the last decade or two, but didn't. Yet.
So I actually want to go into some of the details here. The manufacturing of Tesla, they're literally, Elon Musk, one point that this guy always brings up is that Elon Musk is literally a physicist. He understands the world from atoms up, okay? And so one of the things that I believe Elon Musk is literally prioritizing is how can we maximize space in our factories. One of the things that he said was factories nowadays, the average factory is extremely slow. And so one of the focuses is that, hey, can we produce a car much faster than competition? And if you do that for every single car, that's going to increase your capacity exponentially. Okay, and that's just a single part of it. Another manufacturing technique that they're doing, they're literally innovating the way cars are designed. One of the things that they have, so if you look at the way a plane is designed, the fuel is carried somewhere in the wings, I believe, to maximize the amount of fuel that's in the plane, and to also make it lighter and more balanced, right? They're literally innovating the way a Tesla car can be designed by having, in some way, the batteries structured into the actual structure of the vehicle. I don't know the exact details, but that's one of the things that they're doing. Another third thing, just in manufacturing, they are literally have material designing. Here, I'm gonna actually pull up a video by Solving the Money Problem covering this. They literally have material scientists innovating every single detail of the parts of a Tesla car that no other company can even compete with. Engineering, okay, let's actually pull this up here. And so what I mean is, if Tesla and Elon Musk finds out, oh man, we could infinitely increase the, I don't know, speed of this car if we just have this type of, let's see, what are some of these? Okay, never mind, those are companies. I'm trying to give an example here. Okay, every single one of these parts ahead of the competition. If you want to look more into the details, Sandy Munro exposes Tesla's engineering secrets. Very interesting video, very informative, but I'm not going to get into it too much. The second point that he makes here, I believe, I'm just going to let him speak.
Themselves. This is Tesla's biggest competitive advantage over the long term, and all the evidence points to the fact that nobody is going to come even close to catching Tesla. Every time they delete a part in a process, drive a cost down, figure out how to do more with less, become even more resourceful, this allows Tesla to do one of two things, or both. 1. Increase their profit margins. 2. Reduce the prices of their products to get them in the hands of more customers. Or 3. A combination thereof. Grow margins and reduce prices. This expands Tesla's market and increases their profitability dramatically. 2.
Okay.
Vehicles. Today, most people think of Tesla as a car company, as an automotive manufacturer, and yes, this is part of their business. And at the moment, it's actually the core of their business. Over the long term, this may change. But irrespective of that, last year, Tesla delivered 500,000 vehicles. Tesla plans to deliver around 20 million vehicles in around 2030. About a decade's time. Now, some people think this is absolutely ridiculous. There's no way this could possibly happen. That would mean Tesla has about twice the market share of the world's largest automotive manufacturer today. Well, I'm here to tell you guys, Tesla only needs to double their production about 5.5 times, and they'll be there. Now, how's Tesla going to go about doubling their production multiple times over the next decade? It's pretty simple.
Factories.
Build a few more factories. Now, let's do some math here. Tesla's two currently under construction factories, Austin and Berlin, between them will probably do around 5 million vehicles per year. We know Berlin itself is set to do 2+ million vehicles when fully built out. Austin is a much larger factory and a much larger site, and I suspect that's probably going to be around 3 million vehicles per year. That alone is one.
That's amazing. And if you see the plans for the Austin factory, I think one of the things they said is that they want to make it an actual public, what's the word, not event, a public place where you can hang out, and it would be a beautiful scene. That'd be awesome to be at, bro. Awesome to visit.
Million vehicles per year. That alone is 1/4 already taken care of. But wait, Tesla's already got an operating Fremont factory and an operating and expanding Shanghai factory. What's going to happen to those two factories over time? We know Shanghai ultimately will produce over 1 million vehicles per year, and I actually think it's probably going to be even more than that. Tesla can continue to buy adjacent land and expand. I think a tiny car is going to be made in China as well, a compact car, the Model 2, whatever you want to call it, super high volume vehicle. So I think that we could actually see Shanghai producing close to 2 million vehicles a year over the super long term as well. Then we've got the Fremont factory, call it around 600,000-700,000 annual units of capacity today. That too will continue to expand. Tesla keeps deleting parts and processes, so be mindful. They will be able to produce more vehicles from the same factory footprint. So it doesn't matter if today Fremont's maximum capacity, let's call it about 700,000 vehicles. Doesn't matter if that's the capacity today. In the future, if Tesla can delete a third of the parts and processes from each production line, suddenly they're at about 1 million vehicles per year. So I suspect already, just from the factories we know exist and are operating or under construction, Tesla's somewhere around that 6 to 7 million units of capacity already. Okay, so effectively Tesla just needs to triple the number of factories they have, keep scaling and expanding, and they'll be there. And the thing is, Tesla has the most compelling technology and product. Their lead is unassailable. They have the best EVs on the market. Each new segment they go into, it's going to be the same story. Once they release a compact car, a van, it's the same thing. Tesla is going to dominate. They just have a superior product and no one can catch up to them in terms of technology, price point, performance, features, functionality, nothing. Okay guys, here.
Yeah, so what he's gonna do is a bunch of back of the napkin math, as whatever it's called. But yeah, you can pretty much see the bigger picture there, where in just those two alone, that makes Tesla pretty bullish. Is it a 10x? Not yet. Not yet. Okay. Let's look at his third point. This is the market cap. I'm not sure if that's a market cap, but 800 million. 800 billion. I don't know what that is, but we're not going to get into that right now. I think he gets into the third point right here.
Up there in somewhere that gets some direct sunlight, harvest that energy with
Okay. So what he talks about here is energy.
Huge part. Number 3, energy. Now, which of these do you personally think is the more efficient way to harvest energy from the sun and use that to power all life on Earth? 1. Put a few solar panels or a solar glass roof up there in somewhere that gets some direct sunlight, harvest that energy with your solar panels and use that to directly power or store that energy in batteries to later power anything you would like. Or the alternative, which is what we do today, which seems a little bit more convoluted, which is to allow sunlight to hit the world's most efficient solar panels, those natural green ones you see everywhere called plants, then allow some animals to eat those plants and extract that sunlight, then fast forward a few 100 million or billion years till those organic materials, the plants and animals have died, decayed and fossilized and become, that's right, fossil fuels, then extract them from the earth, then use that to fuel and power whatever you need, and of course cause a lot of pollution as well. Which of those do you personally think is the more efficient way to generate and store energy? Plants, fossils, wait a few 100 million or a billion years, or rooftop solar and batteries? Power plants, including peaker plants, because the numbers make no sense. It's cheaper today to use solar and store that in batteries than it is to use fossil fuel-based energy sources. Today. And these costs...
Let's go! Green. Hey bro, this is why I'm so like... I love business, alright? I know a lot of people are like, screw capitalism, it's evil, and there have been a history of just horrible practices for the dollar, right? But if you look at how economies are set up, right, jobs are made from this, problems are solved from this. Imagine what we would have had to do, and don't get me wrong, there's still things that we have to overcome. But Tesla is literally at the forefront of this energy revolution, okay? That's why I'm so excited about things that are happening in our in these times, right? The internet has opened up so many doors. It's insane. And the video's muted.
Solar glass roof and home battery storage plus grid scale battery storage. As Elon Musk has said, he believes Tesla's energy business could grow to be at least the same size as automotive. And when you do the numbers, this makes sense. Think about all the homes on planet Earth today that don't have solar. Think about all the homes on planet Earth today that don't have home battery storage. Think about all the businesses today that don't have rooftop solar or batteries. Yeah, I could keep going. You guys get the point, right? Number 4, autonomy. So maybe you've heard of Tesla's full self-driving, their autopilot software. Maybe you've heard me say 4 quadrillion times that Tesla's lead is unassailable. No one's catching them. They've got the data. They've got the fleet. They've got the best training system. There's no chance anyone catches up. Like themselves. Yeah, that whole thing. Picture the year 2031. Tesla's total fleet of vehicles numbers around 100 million, all of them capable of autonomously driving people around from point A to point B. No driver, no supervision, no intervention required. Much safer than human drivers. Given the fact that the cost of autonomous robotaxis will be half, maybe even 1/10 of the cost of personal vehicle ownership, and far more convenient, you don't need to buy, you don't need insurance, maintenance, repairs, none of that stuff. You don't need to house and garage your car. You just hail a robotaxi on demand every time you need it. So let's do some really rough ballpark numbers to try to get a sense.
And this is a bunch of assumptions, by the way. But like the thumbnail says, I wouldn't bet against Elon. Okay, it just makes sense that this is what they set their minds on. This is what they're gonna get. Okay. Now we have a lot of hurdles to overcome, but for the most part, I trust the management of the company, the leadership, the culture. Tesla's one of the most wanted jobs out there, and the people there, I'm gonna assume that, hey, they're not afraid to work hard, especially if they see the leaders there working hard. Now, I can't say much. It's not like I have experience working at Tesla, but I really think that a lot of the people there understand that, hey, we're changing the world.
Of the type of revenue and profitability Tesla might see in a decade's time based on their autonomous vehicles.
It's good to look at.
Only half of these vehicles are actually deployed as robo-taxis in a decade's time. That's 50 million vehicles. Each of these vehicles, I'll assume, does 100,000 miles per year for a total of 5 trillion miles. For context, in the US alone, over 3 trillion miles per year are driven, so this is a very reasonable number. If each of these miles is charged out at $1 per mile, that's $5 trillion in total revenue. Let's say that Tesla takes a 30% cut, $5 trillion. If each of these miles is charged out at $1 per mile, that's $5 trillion in total revenue. Let's say that...
So I think I think instead of assuming that Tesla's gonna like overtake the entire country of the US. Oh no, this is globally, right? Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. I would say I would probably be a little bit more conservative on my numbers, like instead of 5 trillion miles, maybe, I don't know, 3 trillion. Alright. But assuming that things are around 5 trillion, would $1 per mile make sense? What is the cost for Uber? I don't know. I've never been on an Uber.
That Tesla takes a 30% cut of this, almost pure profit. That's $1.5 trillion. That's trillion with a T. Now, how much of this is margin? How much is profitability? The vast majority. Remember, what are the operating costs really? Maintaining an app, a little bit of infrastructure, some storage, etc. That's about it. Otherwise, this is almost pure profit. Now, do you guys know of any other companies that are generating around $1.5 trillion in profit per year? I sure fucking don't. Maybe you think this is completely ridiculous. What if we decide instead of $1 per mile, it's just 25 cents per mile? We easily just quarter this. We're still looking at $375 billion of almost pure profit per year in a decade.
In a decade's time. Y'all get the point. Boppity boop bop boop ba. Number 5 is software and subscriptions. That's an interesting one. I don't think it would be like the most massive one, but what I'm thinking here is software in terms of don't know. Let's let him talk.
So in case you didn't realize, the revenue we just talked about from Ride Hail, that was actual fares, nothing to do with full self-driving software subscriptions at all. So let's think about this. Using the same ballpark numbers, let's assume that half of Tesla's fleet in 2031, about 50 million vehicles, is actually paying for full self-driving software. They're also paying for Tesla insurance, and we'll also assume that about half of the people in the fleet are buying or paying for some form of infotainment, downloadable upgrades, etc. Let's look at how those numbers can play out. So we need to make a few assumptions here. I'm going to be what I believe is quite conservative and assume that in 10 years' time, Tesla is charging the equivalent of $20,000 for the full self-driving package, but it's via a subscription model where the ideal payback time is about 5 years. So easy math here, $20,000 divided by 5 years, That's $4,000 per year for Tesla's full self-driving package. We're also going to assume that insurance is $1,250 per year for a total of $5,250. And we're going to go out on a limb here, and we're also going to assume that in each of those robo-taxis, users are paying for $250 of upgrades, infotainment, games, whatever you want to call it, per year. That's a total of $5,500 per vehicle. Remember, this was an assumption based on half of their fleet, 50 million vehicles. So now we times that by 50 million, keeping in mind most of this revenue is highly profitable. We've got the full self-driving package. It's literally just flicking a switch. You've got infotainment, upgrades, etc., which is, again, just press a button and it's a done deal. We're looking at about
50 million vehicles. Are you talking about the entire world? Well, yeah. Okay, so I know this is a bunch of assumptions here. This is a bunch of speculating. And you know, the numbers could be, these are just rough estimates, but bigger picture, massive opportunity. If you literally change the world and transition everybody from, hey, I need a car to move around, to, hey, I don't need a car, I can just pull up a Tesla extremely cheap every single time I need to travel. That's a bunch of opportunity for money, y'all. Okay, how exactly does that correlate to stock price? We're still figuring it out, okay? But if people unanimously agree, like, this is something insane. Like, think about Apple, okay? They literally have the entire world with these. That company's not going anywhere for a very long time. And it's one of the most valuable, if not the most valuable company in the world. And that's phones. Think about the energies. Yeah, y'all get the point. Think about the 5 points, and this is only half of the points that he's about to get into. I actually want to look at the comments a little bit. Tesla will be at least 1900 at the end of 2021. Interesting. What is it at? 700 now? I can see that happening. Not 1900 exactly. I don't know where he got that number. Yeah, let's continue.
At $250 billion per year of extremely high margin revenue. $275 billion. And this is assuming only half of Tesla's fleet is using the full self-driving software, only half of Tesla's fleet is using Tesla insurance, and just a few minor upgrades, infotainment purchases, etc. Number 6, data. And no, I'm not referring to Tesla's full.
I think he's gonna talk about selling data to other companies. A lot of opportunity there as well.
Self-driving data, we've covered that. Nor am I referring to the data they've generated in building and thermally managing all of these electric vehicles over the last decade or so. That's important. But what I'm referring to is the future treasure trove of data that Tesla's enormous fleet is going to be able to generate and how they may be able to monetize that. Let's think of a really crazy example just to illustrate the point. I'm not suggesting this is how the data will be used, but I just want to emphasize, in the future, when Tesla has a fleet of 100+ million vehicles on roads covered in cameras, there's going to be so many potential ways for people to want to access information and get value from that I think this is a multi-billion-dollar opportunity over the long term. Let's just say, for example, that you're a fashion designer and you want to understand what's happening in the latest fashion trends, what colors are people wearing this season, what's in, what's out, etc. In theory, you could effectively query Tesla's fleet and say, hey, what's the most popular color of shirt being worn in Times Square today?
Dude, that's... yo. Oh, man, that's assuming... Obviously, this is just a big assumption, an example of how it could be used. Man, that's assuming regulation doesn't say, whoa, data? Or that's assuming they even do that, obviously. But that's just an example to show the bigger picture of the potential of, hey, there's millions of cars, Tesla vehicles with cameras, and millions of people are using them every single day. We're going to move on to the next point here. Okay.
Fleet will be generating in the future. It's just a matter of finding ways to monetize that. And as I think in the number 7, partnerships and licensing. I've said this before and I'm going to say it again. I think that most legacy automotive manufacturers are going to face the choice this decade, partner with Tesla or go bankrupt, whether that's in the form of licensing their full self-driving software, licensing some of their manufacturing techniques, buying battery cells from Tesla, buying a skateboard from Tesla, some combination thereof. As I've said, Tesla's full self-driving lead is unassailable. Their manufacturing techniques are in a whole other level. They're embarrassing the entire automotive industry. If you're desperately trying to turn around a big ship and transition from internal combustion engine vehicles to EVs, at the same time you're trying to catch up to Tesla on software, on full self-driving, why bother? Why not just take the shortcut, pay a little bit of a fee, get some of Tesla's technology, some of their IP, and actually survive the decade? And I think this is a scenario that's going to play out. Number 8, Dojo as a service, something that Elon Musk...
This is something very interesting. Dojo is artificial intelligence, a supercomputer that has the potential to be more powerful than Google's AI network.
Musk has already hinted at Tesla's neural network training platform, Dojo, cutting edge, world-class, and Elon's very open to licensing this in the future. I can see Dojo as a service being quite similar to Amazon Web Services, originally developed in-house to meet their own needs and then eventually such a compelling world-class product that others want to use this as well.
Advertisements! But yeah, that makes sense. Dojo, and a lot of these are assumptions, I know, but assuming bigger picture, okay, Elon Musk and Tesla succeed, they have millions of people around the world, using their product, and y'all get the point. Oh, and their Dojo service, I honestly don't know much about that. He hasn't even went into the details of it. I think we're still in the starting phases of it, but like I said, this is just to highlight what are the opportunities here and how it could 10x.
We're talking VTOL, we're talking HVAC, we're talking all sorts of other things that we have.
I'm out here muted, y'all. Okay, so new products. Let's rewind it.
New products. We're talking VTOL. We're talking HVAC. We're talking all sorts of other things that we haven't even imagined yet. Tesla has the biggest brain engineers of practically any company on Earth besides SpaceX. There's a bit of cross-pollination between these two companies. We've got Elon Musk at the helm as well. What are the odds that in 10 years' time, Tesla's going to have a range of new products we couldn't even have imagined? Exactly. Number 10, Elon fucking Musk. I don't need to tell you guys that Elon's one of the smartest humans to ever live, one of the best executors, leaders, engineers, business people, innovators, creators, inventors. I could keep going. I don't need to tell you this. You already know this. I suspect in a decade's time, Elon Musk's core focus will be building out the Mars colony with SpaceX, but I still believe, despite the fact that I think he'll have stepped down from the CEO role at Tesla at that stage, he'll still be heavily involved in new products, engineering, and some other bits and pieces.
Absolutely, don't bet against Elon Musk. Let's look at some... There's this one video by, if you've heard of him, Warren Redlick. Interesting guy. Has a lot of assumptions and has some models that he thinks that Tesla will... Well, I'll let y'all know.
Is ultra filtered.
He said something around maybe 200 trillion. I don't.
Welcome. Today I'm joined by Warren Redlick, and this is going to be a live stream. And if you've got some questions or comments, you can add them. After the first part of this interview, we'll go ahead and open it up for questions and have kind of a chat. So Warren Redlick is a YouTuber, a retired lawyer, and also a Tesla investor. And he has some of the wildest, craziest, most extreme price targets out there. And we've got a special episode. We're going to dive into some of the things that he's been sharing. And I want to welcome you, Warren, to the show.
Thanks for having me on. I'm a big fan.
Awesome. Yeah. It's been interesting and exciting to actually watch some of your stuff and go through some of your models. And yeah, I'm curious, like, before we get into some of your models, because I think some of your prices that you share Tesla could be at, I think one of them, you say that there's a possibility of Tesla being at $200,000, right, in 2030.
Yeah.
What percent possibility or probabilities do you give that? I mean,
I don't really do it that way. Mm-hmm. I just think, it sort of depends on how things go. I think that, more than $50,000 a share is significantly likely. 200,000 a share, you get to a point where antitrust authorities step in, right? Mm-hmm. When you get that big, that there are other repercussions that step in the way. So, but you know, it's really hard to predict all kinds of things. It's just, if you look at the numbers, if you say, okay, if they're going to produce this many batteries, if they're going to have this many robo-taxis, these are what the numbers say. And you know, you can criticize the models, and there's some really valid criticisms of my models, like, Warren, you're not taking into account taxes, which is true. You know, I'm going with like gross profit rather than net profit, and you know, there's definitely some good criticisms, but I feel like I try to take care of those. And so the 200,000 is actually 177,000 is a step down from the 340,000 that I actually came up with. I said, well, to be fair, let's cut it in half. So
200. Okay, wait. $200,000 share price. What is that in terms of market cap? Is that
200 trillion?
200 trillion, because there's about 1 billion outstanding shares. So 200 trillion. Do you know the market cap of the S&P 500?
Yes. Well, no, but
it's only like 35 trillion, right? Or so.
Sure. I hear this criticism all the time, and I would just say, go back to 2010 or 2011 and tell someone that Apple is going to be over $2 trillion market cap, right? And they're gonna laugh at you. Go back to 2013 and tell someone that Amazon is going to be a $1.6 trillion market cap, and they're going to think you're crazy. And you know,
he is right. There's potential for anything to happen, but let's just look at the model. All right.
Bought Amazon in 2013 when, you know, the price earnings ratio was 1,000. Everybody's saying, oh, Tesla's price earnings ratio is too high. You just have to look at the Tesla is going after a much larger market than Amazon went after. It's a global market. They're already in the largest car markets, except maybe Japan. I don't know how much penetration they have in Japan. Amazon isn't in China, right? I mean, you know, and Amazon is covering a much smaller market really than what Tesla is shooting for. You're talking about power and cars. It's bigger.
Yeah. So this is gonna be fun because obviously I'm a Tesla bull as well, and so like I'm not gonna deny that Tesla has a great future ahead. But if you're okay with it, I'll go ahead and challenge some assumptions, and we'll go through some of kind of your ideas and thoughts here.
And just to be clear, so people who don't know, you asked me for some of my spreadsheets, and I sent you some of my spreadsheets before we did this.
My whole purpose is just to encourage, thoughtful, productive conversation. Hopefully, I can learn something as well as others, and I think every kind of step toward conversation and dialogue is a step toward, moving forward. And so, this is great. What is kind of your basic napkin math? If you could, there's
follow me on Twitter, y'all.
Models out there that you could go on to explain for hours and hours, but I think sometimes the simplest models are the most powerful. Do you have like the ultra simple kind of something in your head where you're like, I don't even need to think about it. This is just how I value Tesla, like let's say 5 or 10 years down the road. I
actually have 2 different models that I use. One is basically the robotaxi profit model, and the second one is the battery revenue model. The battery revenue model is pretty close to what Elon said on I think it was the fourth quarter investor call. The robotaxi model is probably simpler than that. The robotaxi model is really simple. At Autonomy Day, Elon said we'll have 10 million of our own robotaxis. So this is just looking at Tesla-owned robotaxis, not looking at anything else Tesla does. 10 million robotaxis is what he said. He described $30,000 a year in profit per robotaxi. I think the $30,000 was a reference to the private owners who are sending their vehicles out as robotaxis. I think Tesla's profit on the robotaxis is higher, and I've run my own numbers on what I think profit is on a robotaxi, which declines per robotaxi over time as you saturate the market. But if there's only 10 million robotaxis, you haven't come close to saturating the market. So I figure that's about $50,000 a year in gross profit, not net profit. So if you take $50,000 a year times 10 million robotaxis, you get $500 billion in profit. Okay, so let's be clear. This is just robotaxis. This is not selling cars. This is not Megapack, solar, Powerwall. Just on that alone, that's $500 billion a year in profit. And if you apply a price earnings ratio of 30, which is low, you get a $15 trillion market cap.
Okay, so first, assuming all the numbers there were around right, I'm not really sure I follow the price to earnings ratio. Like, does it have to be to the dot? You know what I mean? $15 trillion. Like, at what point, like, how exactly does that correlate? All right. It's not like price to earnings ratio is, y'all know what I mean, right? Like, the value of something is based on people seeing what Tesla's doing and valuing it from there. It's not exactly price to earnings ratio. And obviously price to earnings ratio can change. So that's a pretty big thing, you know what I mean? Assumption.
Get a $15,000 share price just on that.
Okay.
So that's a really simple napping math. That's not the battery revenue model, but that's the robotaxi model.
All right. Awesome. So let's talk about this. So 10 million robotaxis making 50,000. You're saying gross.
Yeah.
What are you talking about gross? Are you talking about there's operating expenses? So what's the operating income, or let's say net profit off of that?
I don't know. I think it's really hard to forecast that out. I think that one of the biggest things that gets in the way that separates gross profit from net profit is often administrative costs, selling general administrative expenses. Those decline over as your economy, as you scale up, those become smaller. So that takes away less, taxes take away more. But keep in mind, I'm using a price earnings ratio of 30, which is because Amazon has a price earning ratio of 75 right now. And to me, a 10 million Tesla is still growing fast.
Sure.
I'm not sure if I understand your question. The where I get the $50,000 from is if a vehicle drives 60,000, if a vehicle drives paid 60,000 miles a year, making, let's say, $1 a mile, which I think is low at the point of 10 million robotaxis. I think $1 a mile is low. Then
I don't know about that.
You're talking about $60,000 a year in revenue. My estimate of the cost per mile for the 2023 Tesla Compact is going to be below 10 cents a mile on the 100,000 miles. If you drive 100,000 miles in order to serve 60,000 paid miles, right? Because some of the time the vehicle's driving empty, going from one ride to the next ride. And I think that Tesla is going to optimize its network, and it's going to have very little. It's going to minimize the amount of time that the vehicle's driving unoccupied to maximize the miles that are paid. So I think, people have said it's only 50%. I think that's ridiculous. It's going to be 60% or even 75%. So if you have $60,000 in revenue, right? Because you have 60,000 miles times $1, and then you have 10 cents a mile times 100,000 miles driving. You have $10,000 in costs. You have $50,000 in gross profit. The 10 cents a mile comes from this. In 2019, when Elon spoke at Autonomy Day, he said the then current cost of a 2019 or 2018 Model 3 worked out to about 18 cents a mile. And about the same time, a company called Tesla, which was running Tesla vehicles. It was providing a service using Tesla vehicles. They estimated their cost for the Model 3 at 18 cents a mile. So it's not just Elon. That's depreciation, that's insurance, that's electricity, that's everything. 18 cents a mile. Go to the 2023 Compact, you're going to have a much more efficient vehicle that's going to have a 1,000,000-mile lifespan. So the depreciation is spread over a lot more miles. The electric consumption is a lot less, a lot of other advantages, and that's going to make that vehicle, and it's going to cost less. So that vehicle is going to cost a lot less per mile. I think 10 cents a mile is actually high. I think it's probably going to be closer to 7 cents a mile when I work the numbers.
Mm-hmm. All right. So a few things here. So let's give you the assumption of 10 million robotaxis in 2030 or so. Now,
just to be clear, I think that's low.
Yeah.
I'm just using that number because Elon said it.
Sure. Yeah, definitely could be higher. But let's say 10 million robotaxis. I think $1 per mile, that seems like extremely, extremely high, because the cost to basically operate a vehicle right now is usually between 30 cents on the super low end to maybe 70 cents. Average it out, maybe 55 cents or so to actually own a car. Now, there are people who are obviously doing it for lower than 55 cents. And the reality is, going forward with battery cars, you're going to actually drive that cost per mile down over time. So let's say in 10 years, you're going to have majority, if not 90% of cars being battery cars, electric cars. That's going to drive down the cost of ownership. So the average cost to own a car, 55 cents right now, is going to be driven down, to let's say 30 or 40 cents. How can a robotaxi charging $1 compete with private ownership at 30 or 40 cents per mile? Don't you need it at least equal, if not lower, than private ownership to really have a chance?
I think he lagged out a little bit, but boppity boop bop.
I took 7 trips on Lyft in New York City over the past 4 months, and my average cost per mile to me as the rider was $5 a mile.
That's New York City. That's like the one of the priciest taxi markets in the world, because you've got these like medallion taxi riders, and it's so dense and condensed, and it's like just riding a little bit is going to cost you a fortune in New York City, and that's such a small, what is that? Is that 0.1% of the market? The average Uber ride, according to ARK Invest, is I think about $1.85 per mile. That's what they're calculating.
You and I have very different numbers. So my impression of the overall average for Uber and Lyft is $2.50 a mile. I think it depends on whether you include tip and whether you include other things, but I think $2.50 a mile is probably closer to the average nationwide or worldwide. The dollar, you said that you thought the average cost per mile is 55 cents. Tasha Keeney thinks it's 70 cents. My ballpark is 60 cents for the average driver. But 10 million robotaxis is barely punching the market when you have 10 or 20 trillion miles driven worldwide. You really need to get well over 100 million robotaxis to start making it tip. At 100 million robotaxis, you're really starting to saturate the market. So
We're also this is kind of like ignoring the fact that a Tesla could just change the cost per mile depending on your location. But overall, these are just some fun assumptions to make some bigger picture, like, hey, why does this guy think that there's a potential for 200 trillion market cap? I'll definitely consider following him on Twitter. He must have some interesting tweets. But for now, you can check out the video right here. It's called The Ultra Bull Case on Tesla by Dave Lee on Investing. And it's 2 hours long, which is why I'm not getting fully into it today. Subscribe and follow me on Twitter if you'd like to find the link of all the videos I have of Tesla stock. Goodbye.